Do you know what's funny? When I look at all these, I guess you could say, very adult triple X NFSW erotic stories. It's not the fact that, you know, one of the common things about them. One of the common things about them is, well, a lot of the authors, as I've talked about before, writers, if you will, they like to put Tails in the situation of being the one that basically, has a good time with the ladies. Now, I'm not saying Sonic or Antoine or Shadow or even Scourge are left out. No, they're not. But mostly, it's Tails. And it's crazy, to see, depending on the story, who he gets it on with. But of course, Tails is not alone. There are some stories that kind of go a different direction. Identical to some, but different. For example, Blue Quill, I talked about his story, Queen's Delight, which you should check out. Blue Quill, 68, I believe. He did Queen's Delight. And not only did it kind of show us in this one shot that, well, Sonic, Sally, and Nicole, I should say, are in a three-way relationship. But it also kind of showed that, from this story perspective, the Queen Alicia, is looking like she's about to move on from Max. Because Max here is actually portrayed, as I've mentioned before, as he was in the original pre-reboot of the Archie Sonic. Mostly the later pre-reboot issues, where he was kind of a grouchy old king. Very old-fashioned, stubborn in his ways, not willing to basically change, if you will. And what's interesting, about Queen's Delight when it comes to that is it's kind of a crossover with Sonic Underground, because it brings in, Queen Alina, who is the mother of Sonic, Sonya, and Manic in Underground. But the way it's done here, as I mentioned before, is she is still technically Sonic's mother, even if it's not the Sonic of her world. And he's cool with looking at her in that way. But what's interesting is the fact that Alina, pretty much right off the bat, takes an extreme liking and attraction to Alicia. To the point that basically, as I've talked about before in the review, she gets Alicia to kind of let her guard down, literally, and have a very, very good erotic NFSW, intimate, screw thy brains out fun with each other, thus culminating possibly in the fact that they are now girlfriends, they are now lovers, and potentially the beginning of the end in this retrospective of the story of the Max Alicia storyline, or relationship anyway. But that's not the only one. There's a 3-part series, or a multi-part series currently going on, called Sonic Suburbia. And it takes the characters in a more suburban, atmosphere. And here, it does play off the fact that Sonic, Nicole, and Sally are in a relationship, but now so is Bunny. Bunny is in a relationship with them because this version of Antoine, I guess, that she was with, turned out to be a jerk. Anyway, she ends up basically primarily not just, hooking up with the three of them, but primarily hooking up with Nicole. So yeah, even though Nicole originally was in a 3-way with Sonic and Sally, and Bunny initially became part of it, making it a 4-way relationship, Bunny in this story has settled upon Nicole and vice versa. But what's interesting is the latest part in the Sonic Suburbia Suburbia story, and that is the inclusion of vanilla, as pretty much hinted at in Archie Sonic, and kind of followed up on a little bit in the post reboot, I would assume, in some manner. Bunny, there is related, in this continuity to Vanilla. Vanilla is her aunt, and she is what's known as a MILF of an aunt. To the point that when she's invited to stay with them in the guest room, or one of the guest rooms anyway, she has the place to herself. She has the place to herself. Hold on for a second. Just gotta be careful of how I do this. People might take it the wrong way. But like I said, she has the place to herself. And one day, she encounters another friend of Bunny's, Rouge. And so Rouge ends up, appearing, because Bunny is a client of hers and kind of a close friend. And Rouge runs, I guess you could say, a very, very adult-like specialty store. And Rouge basically starts taking, after she stops by, is invited in by Vanilla, and they kind of sit down and get to know each other. Rouge, like Alina in Queen's Delight, did with Alicia, Rouge takes a liking to Vanilla, and let's just say things get very intimate afterwards, and more, put it this way, more intimate, and I wouldn't say BDSM or anything like that, but very, very extremely intimate and erotic and stuff, and they just go to town, basically. The plot is, in this chapter, which I think is the fourth chapter of it, Rouge has brought out a side of Vanilla that has not been seen for quite some time, a more erotic, NFSW, dominatrix. I wouldn't say dominatrix, but kind of on the leaning towards it, dominatrix, kind of like mistress side of Vanilla that in this story had not been seen for a while. And what's interesting is Blue Quill 68 it hints at in this chapter for Sonic Suburbia, that Rouge probably knows who Vanilla is, because she looks at her posterior, if you will, where her tail and posterior, sees a tattoo. Yes, Vanilla has a tattoo in the story. She sees it, and Blue Quill 68, like I said, in this portion of the story, hints at the fact that Rouge probably knows who she is, because she recognizes it, but she can't remember from where. So yeah, it's a really interesting, fun story to look into and everything. But what's even more interesting, though, when you look at these kind of stories as well, is the fact that, some of the stories are so strange in, the presentation, how they try to justify certain things happening. Like with Tails, there are several stories that they try to justify the reasoning why he does these things. Like with My Friend's Wife, which is one of the stories I reviewed, they try to justify the fact that, Julie Sue is telling him, I might be doing this behind my husband's back, but as long as he doesn't know, and I don't get, fertilized, and you're not too rough with me, for the week that you're at our house, because they're married, apparently, in this story, which again is called My Friend's Wife. Her justification is, as long as you're gentle with me, you don't knock me up, and all that, we'll be good. And as long as we clean up the evidence, we'll be good. So they do try to justify it. Like the other one that we have is Miles and the MILFs. And this one is quite interesting because they justify the fact that basically each woman that he's encountering is going through a similar situation where they have yet to have for a long time, yet to have any strong sexual satisfaction. So what happens is they try to justify it by having people on their behalf kind of convince Tails, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Da da da. And my bus is here, guys. Hold on. Like I said, they kind of justify it by having people on behalf of Bernadette, who is Sonic's mom in Archie Comics, Julian's wife, Cream, who is Vanilla's daughter, and even King Acorn, and Jules, Bernadette's husband, explained to Tails that they need him to do this for them because their wives, like I said, for the longest time, have not had true sexual satisfaction, and that there are reasons for it. Jules being roboticized, Max being handicapped, and so on. So they try to justify it, and it is comedic gold. I will say that. It is comedic gold of how Tails is like unsure and everything, but eventually, has to eventually have to be reminded of the fact that, this is, you're a nice guy. You made a vow to always help people, so, he basically, being a freedom fighter knows, yes, I did make that vow, so, and I am willing to help wherever I can, so that's what he does. He basically helps out by, getting intimate with all these girls. And, again, it's comedic gold. It's hilarious comedic gold because, he's unsure, but then he's like, once he gets into it, he starts realizing, hey, it's not that bad. As long as nobody, finds out outside of, outside of those that he, has made the agreement with to do this with, nobody like his mom or Sonic or Sally or any of them finds out that he's doing this. Then he's completely fine. And what's interesting is they do try to switch it up a little bit to where even those he does do it with get a little nervous, like Alicia Acorn in the recent chapter, and it was the first time and his thing, Miles and the Mills got updated for the first time in several months. But basically, Alicia is a little nervous. She has to be convinced by Tails of all people that this is good and everything. She's a little unsure, but once he convinces her, and he's the one that initiates the moment, if you will, she kind of does get into it. She does start to get more into it and everything, to the point that after they do the deed, she's the one that, because he asks her basically after they do the deed, was it good? And she basically answers him with a kiss on the lip. A passionate kiss on the lips. And she says it's wonderful. And then he even asks if he could do what he's doing for Bernadette, and unbeknownst to her, Vanilla. Let's come back and give her more pleasure. And Tails, being who he is in the story, says, sure, I can do it. And so, yeah, it's a Miles and the Mills story by, I think it's, I can't think of the name right now. It's Tails is cool kind of deal or something like that. Tails is cool and the girl's jewel or something. He's doing a great job with this story because, again, the moments are sometimes looked at as comedic gold at his nervousness, and now his nervousness of some of the women. His nervousness at the possibility he could end up knocking up one of these girls he's with, stuff like that. And it looks like they're hinting at the idea that Mina's mother is next on the list, her name being Isabella, who's a mongoose. They're hinting at the fact that she's next, but they also in this recent chapter, hinted at the fact that when Bernadette gets her chance again, that what she originally planned to do with Tails before he had to call it off because he had to, take care of Alicia, they did kind of give a hint that possibly in the next chapter, Bernadette's going to want to have, a very desserty, I guess you could say, time, a very whippy, creamy, desserty time with Tails. So yeah, this is a story you have to check out. But again, it's one of those stories to where they try to justify, why Tails does this and everything. And again, this is just like the tip of the iceberg, when it comes to these stories. Because again, you take a look at Sonic Siberia, you look at Queen's Delight, they try to give justification as to, why they're together and stuff. It's just a fun read if you're into that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to come on here and give you my thoughts on it. Just kind of see if you guys might be interested. I know some of you might find it disgusting and all that, but figured I'd just try to give you some thoughts on it and see what you guys think. I'll try to provide links down below. But until next time, guys, I will talk to y'all later. Again, let me know what your thoughts are. Love to hear from each and every one of you on this. And until next time, I will talk to y'all later.